Hey there friends, Cassie from Grace and Goals here. I am so excited to walk you through my 2023 Powersheets prep work. Every year I look forward to getting to share my Powersheets prep work with you, and I know this video is coming out a bit late, but I had the delight and joy of getting to coach so many of you through your Powersheets prep work, so I'm super pumped to finally be able to take you through mine. So let's get started. This year, my biggest focus is going to be on pursuing progress. So I loved being able to say this cultivated year belongs to progress, not perfection. Before we get started, I want to share the tools that I've used. So if you watched my previous video on how to pre-decorate your 2023 Powersheets, you're gonna see the links and all of the details of the stickers that I use, the tending tape, all those things. So if you are looking for those details, please go back to that video. The writing tools that you're gonna see in this video are all right here. I like to use the Tombow brush pen, specifically the N15, Papermate flare pens, friction erasable gel pens, and you will see some glitter gel pens in there as well. And then the only other stickers that you're going to see in here that you didn't already see previously are from the goal setting sticker book, and it is the color coding system that is inside all of Cultivate's goal setting sticker books. So let's dive in, shall we? As we start in our prep work, our goal is to just list out all of the goals that we can possibly think of, all the things that we want to do in the year ahead. I want to remind you that when you head into this page, your goals don't need any disclaimers, not a single one, because this is your life and your Powersheets are designed to help you cultivate what matters most to you. So get messy, put everything down on this page. I really dug into my favorite blooms patterns and think of this page as the growing ground. This is the start of all that's going to grow. There are goals here for every area of life, and this does not mean that I'm committing to doing all of these things. This is just a starting point. As we're here, I want to just quickly remind you that if you're looking at these inserts, these are the Grace and Goals Powersheets prep work inserts that I created for this upcoming year. So I'll share the links to those below if you're interested. There's way more details on that. Again, also in the previous video of how to pre-decorate your 2023 Powersheets. To help me get really specific about naming what's holding me back, I started with this prompt. This was my launching pad by being able to say, okay, in this season, what is worth protecting the most? For me, that was my hope and my faith, my peace and my health and my energy. So in attacking this page over here, I started by thinking, okay, what are the things that threaten these areas the most? For me, I found it was things like doom scrolling on social media, streaming TV shows all the time, assuming, uncertainty. These are all things I need to let go of because we can't make forward progress on our goals if the guilt of yesterday is preventing grace today. Another way that I got really specific is I used some of these stickers from the 2022 goal setting sticker book, which held the cultivated life categories. So I made sure that I at least had one distraction that I needed to let go of for each area of my life. This allowed me to make sure that I was focusing on every area and not forgetting about one, because these pieces are important. When we take the things that are weighing us down and we let them go, it gives us room to let other good things grow, and it allows us to protect what matters most to us. Every year, this is one of my favorite pages because this page holds some really, really important truths. When we make time for the things that fire us up, we will find ourselves energized. rather than exhausted. So we need to build these things into our goals. So one of the ways that I kind of proactively did that is I used my Cultivated Life category colors. I recolored mine, and I just happened to have it look like confetti, which was extra fun. But ultimately, what I wanted to do was be able to remind myself of what are the things that fire me up in each area of my life. So if I'm feeling really burnt out when it comes to health issues or my wellness, I should go get some sunshine. I should spend some time on my sun porch. When I'm looking at personal development and I'm feeling like I'm not making any progress, I can actively go back and look at my wins. I can see my imperfect progress add up. I can time block so that I make sure that I'm spending my time well. By putting things in this category and doing it in such a way, it allows me to be able to look back to my power sheets as I go through the year. And when I'm feeling burnt out, this is the page I can come to. So keep that in mind as you work on this page. Then we have learn from the past. This page is so important because we want to actively note the things that worked, the things that didn't, and start our year off in a place of gratitude. The most important piece to this page, in my opinion, is noting the lessons that we learn. I don't know about you, but I don't like to learn the same lesson twice. Most lessons that we learn are hard fought. They're things that were hard to learn, and I don't want to have to do that a second time. Because I have used Powersheets for years, I was able to make use of the Grace and Goals pre-prep work checklist, which had me really go through my 2022 Powersheets so that I could fill out this page as accurately as possible. The lessons that I learned this past year were that practice makes progress, that God isn't bound to my permanent ink, that diligence is not reliant on feelings, that imperfect progress is still progress, and that I can trust the Lord with my dreams. These are all important truths that I want to carry with me as we move into 2023. Then we have evaluate where you are now. This gives you the opportunity to review the areas of your life. One of the biggest ways that we can build grace into our goals is when we're honest with ourselves. Because if we can't be candid about where we are today, we aren't going to be able to be realistic in our goals or create achievable timelines for those goals. And grace will be found in your honesty. Now, if you are a Powersheets user and this is not your first set of Powersheets, you know that we do these evaluations every 90 days. So the evaluation you do here is not on the whole year of 2022. You're looking at just the past quarter. As you can see here, I made my Powersheets my own. I changed up some of the categories to best fit me in this season of life. You are allowed to do the same. Make your Powersheets work for you. I also want to make note that it's really important that we understand the 1 to 10 scale. The 1 to 10 scale is not on performance by you, okay? I know that that is how a lot of people think of this 1 to 10 scale, but that is not what it's designed to do. 1 is designed to be, I need to see a ton of change in this area. 10 is going to be, I'm making really solid progress and I just need to keep it up and stay consistent. This is not a reflection solely on you and what you have and haven't done. It is to note where you need to see the most change as you move forward. So for example, for personal growth, in here I gave myself a 6, and this is what I wrote. I said, I have made some big leaps this year in planning my weeks and time blocking, but I need to stay on top of scheduling mentoring calls, prioritizing days to dream, and to growth and clarity just catch-up days for me and for Grace and Goals. I want to improve my evening habits and release streaming and just read more and work quietly. I gave myself a 6 because there are certain things I'm doing really well, but I still need to see a fair amount of change. And then we have the final piece to this page before we move on, which is we want to mark the 3 areas that we most want to grow in 2023. I know that this can be a hard question, okay? But ultimately, we can't do it all. So I challenge you to look at this page. You can also remember that it doesn't have to be for the whole year, maybe just the next 90 days. But if you could only make progress on 3 areas and see the most change, where would you want those to be? You see, normally faith is always checked off for me as a top priority. And the thing is that by it not being starred doesn't mean that it's not a super important priority. But I'm in a place where I'm consistent. It's not taking a lot of energy for me to continue keeping up what I've been doing. So I started the 3 areas that I most want to see change and growth in this year, because again, that's how we're answering this question here. Then we have cultivate your mindset. Now, I found that I really was missing a couple of the pages from prior Powersheets. So if you have that PDF, you know that you're going to pause here and go to page 48. The first thing that you're going to do is put in how you feel about where you are now, just a sentence or two to describe how you felt going through that evaluation. Then for each cultivated life category, I had you look at the prompt of saying, to move forward and get unstuck, what do you need to let go of? Typically, we find that there are areas where we are being held back by something we're holding on to. So, for example, for faith, I had put that in order to move forward and get unstuck, and again, even though it's not my top priority, where I need to see the most change, there are still improvements that can be made, right? So I put choosing to satisfy myself temporarily with distractions instead of choosing quiet, diligent intention with the Lord. For personal growth, I talked about how I need to stop letting the perfection, which leads to procrastination cycle, continue dominating my time. Then we looked at what do you fear? And if you let those burdens and fears go, what would you be free to receive and grow? You can do this in the 3 areas where you feel the most stuck, or in the 3 areas that you marked on your cultivated life evaluation where you want to see the most change. And then we have the final statement where we talk about and we determine how we'll feel when we move forward, if we move forward. So this year, when I choose to release the power these fears have held and take action to do what I have been made for, I will feel, and I put secure in his call for my life. Now let's head back to page 15. When we know what we need to let go of, we've identified distractions, we evaluated where we are now, we're going to get really specific. We're going to rewrite our self-talk because that matters greatly. Learning how to build grace into your goals is going to change your mind, your heart, and your progress in every season, but especially the uncertain ones. Our honesty is going to be rewarded in this page. How we talk to ourselves matters, and it can truly change everything. The most important piece to this is that we separate lies from the truth. Here, when we look at this, we'll notice probably that some of our negative self-talk isn't even true. There are fears that we have or things that we believe that actually have no standing and aren't even realistic. But we still want to identify them so we can move past them. Negative self-talk statements start with, I am, I cannot, I struggle, I will not, I will never. These are all different negative self-talk starting points. Just like positive reframes start with I have, I can, I do, in Jesus I can, I was made to. These are all starting statements that we can use as we're working through these prompts. So I'm going to share mine with you because, again, when we address the lies, we can step into truth. So a negative self-talk would be, I am lazy and a chronic procrastinator. A reframe would be, I have the ability to choose diligence and intention and rest when my body needs it. I am not enough and neither is my best. I do the best I can with the body that I have. I am inconsistent. I can expectantly choose to count imperfect consistency. My uncertainty lowers my value and my worth. My uncertainty has given me unique insight and understanding that I can use to serve and help others through. I can't do anything right. I'm allowed to make mistakes and learn from them. I struggle to follow through. I don't need everything to be perfect, but I do need to be prepared. These are all examples of self-talk that we're committing to changing because we have separated the lies from the truth. Then we want to name what matters. We want to step out into the big picture and the things that truly matter to us, because we've talked about the past, we've evaluated where we are, we've addressed truth from lies, and we want to further clarify that on these pages. Something I challenged everyone coaching with me to do was to take these statements that they checked off and reframe them, because we just took the time to separate lies from truth so we can acknowledge where we are and prepare for where we're going to go. So for example, I try to do it all. We can reframe this to this 2023, I am going to focus on doing a few things well rather than doing a bunch of things okay. Distractions leave me feeling empty. I feel I waste more time than I should. Well, the first part of that statement is true, so we're just going to reframe the second. Distractions leave me feeling empty. This year, I'm going to be diligent in monitoring my energy so I don't continue this cycle. And then I did change up this one to better fit me, which was I need to be better in using my time to focus on what's important. A reframe for that would be I can choose to use my time to focus on what's important. And then looking at who do we want to be? For me this year, in looking at that, is a believer who trusts in God's hope confidently and expectantly. And then I looked at what character traits I would need to develop so that I could grow into that person that I want to become. And for me, that looked like letting myself hope and be hopeful, cultivating an attitude of surrender, and pursuing diligent, enduring joy. And then we want to look at our big picture, what will and won't have mattered. Because we want to build lives that we aren't running in shame from, but rather lives where we are proudly making imperfect progress that is going to add up to a cultivated life. What will have mattered in the long haul is why I was pursuing a goal or a habit. What won't have mattered is how I achieved that goal or how I got to the finish line. What will have mattered is that I trusted God with my dreams. What won't have mattered is which one succeeded. What will have mattered is that I made progress. What won't have mattered is how imperfect my progress was. What will have mattered is God's rules and my obedience. What won't have mattered is my own legalism. And when I say that, I mean like thinking that I can only have my quiet time in the morning. Or that if I can't do a color-coded highlight routine with my Bible, that it's not worth getting into. I made up those rules. And the good news is that if you've also made up your own rules in any area of life, not just in faith, the good news is that you have the power to change them because you made them. What will have mattered is how I loved my husband, Jared. What ultimately won't have mattered is how many times I was right. And then the other piece I put in here was what will have mattered is that I stewarded my time well. What won't have mattered is how many shows that I've streamed. Then we move on to looking at the big picture. This page can be hard because we're dreaming. We're actively choosing to let ourselves dream and hope for the future, which can be hard. I have had seasons where I have just put prayers in here on both sides. You can make your power sheets your own. Something some people did this year as well is they used their big picture vision to be all of 2023, and they filled out living it out this year for the next 90 days. That's also a way you can utilize this page. So big picture vision for me, for fun and recreation, I put that I'll have a gorgeous garden inside and out. I will love reading and be engaging in self-care, laughter, spray painting, and hand lettering projects. And of course, sunshine. For growth, which is more what you saw from my Cultivated Life evaluation, I put in here that I will not be held hostage by addictive tendencies of streaming or TikTok or games. I will be a good steward of my time in how I plan, seek out mentoring, reading more, and having diligent routines. And for faith, that looks like being in a church community and being able to actively serve and to read through the whole Bible more years than not, and just have an established quiet time routine and daily prayer. Some of those things have already happened, but again, they're things I want to continue. We don't have to always reinvent the wheel. Then we're going to pause. We're going to go to the added Grace and Goals page of Define Your Year. In order to build grace into our goals, we need to define what the key components to grace-filled goal settings are going to look like for ourselves for the year ahead. We want to allow our progress, even the smallest bit of progress, to have purpose. We want to free ourselves from the New Year's resolution cop-outs. For example, when we lean into the classic, "I'll get back at it on Monday," or "I'll just wait until the 1st" mindset, we are saying that our progress and our regression doesn't matter. So good or bad, it doesn't matter. Friends, we don't want to live this way. This does not help you embrace progress. It just pressures you into perfection and pushes you towards shame. Shame, comparison, perfection, and guilt, these are all heavy burdens to bear. And getting them off our back takes practice, diligence, and grace. So how do we do that? How do we set purposeful, achievable goals and habits that are based in progress and grace without perfection and guilt? Well, we're going to start by asking ourselves a few really important questions. And we're going to define what these words mean to us. So we had the opportunity, I left the actual definition of the word there, but I wanted you to be able to go through and define what these words mean. We use these words all the time in goal setting. Yet we rarely stop to ask ourselves what they actually mean to us. So we're going to define our year. For me, perfection is unachievable. We're not touching it. And it is not worth aiming for. I also identified where and when my inner critic and perfectionist comes out the most. That typically happens when I know others will see my work. Grace is choosing to count imperfect progress. This year, consistency, I'm going to define that by doing something habitually and in a routine and rhythm. I put the word cultivate in here because we tend to think of this word in association to cultivate what matters, and we should. But what does it actually look like to cultivate in our lives? For me, that looks like growing good, hard things. And then we have progress. What does that look like? Well, progress is forward motion. It's a process, and it's choosing the 1%. It's choosing to do something imperfectly rather than not doing it at all. We're going to choose to do 1%. We're going to choose to do something imperfectly as long as we're moving forward, because forward motion is progress. And we know that all progress, whether it is slow, it is fast, it is consistent, inconsistent, imperfect, or as close to perfect as we could imagine, it's all progress. And then we have the why and the how. Now, if you remember on the page we were just at, I talked about how what will have mattered in the long haul is why I made progress on the goal, not how I achieved the goal. This is crucial to our understanding and our goal setting. Why is our purpose? It is the driving force behind why we want to achieve our goals. The how is the plan. So many times when you ask anyone, even yourself, someone may say, "Hey, why are you working on this goal?" We're going to tell them how we achieve it, not why. And the thing is that there are going to be seasons where the how to our why changes. So when the plan falls apart, the thing that's going to keep us committed to pursuing that thing, it's going to be the purpose. You can think of this as the purpose is the non-negotiable. The why is the non-negotiable. The how is negotiable. So now that we've defined those things, let's go back and look at our big picture vision and how we can live it out this year. So now that we've defined what progress, consistency, perfection, cultivate, why, how, all those things, we're able to better figure out what we want our action steps to look like. So I use this very practically. I put in ways that I could pretty much action steps to help me better live it out this year. So, like we talked about with growth, because that's kind of the one that I've been sharing here today, some of the things that I put over here would be to diligently stick to fulfilling habits, i.e., choosing diligence, not distractions, to plan my weeks ahead of time, to read in the evenings, refresh my morning rhythm and my evening routine, seek out mentorship, find some good podcasts and sermons to listen to. For marriage, where, we talk about being thoughtful communicators and supporters, and in our church, more regularly in, a community perspective, that looks like for Jared and I going on a marriage retreat this year and loving one another well to celebrate 5 years of marriage this April and 10 years together in June. To find a small group and consistently attend our church in person, to weekly time block and have weekly date nights. So this page I really used to put out action steps that would help me get closer to my big picture vision. And then we have the decisions, our yes and no list. I chose to do these really practically, and I just want to remind you that no matter what season of life you are in, you can cultivate an intentional life right where you are, in the middle of the mess, no matter how uncertain the season. These are all of my categories, my cultivated life categories. So what I decided to do, because there were 16 lines and there are 8 categories, that I would actively put one thing I'm saying yes to and no to for each category, just because that helped me get more specific. So for instance, for grace and goals, that looks like saying yes to diligent dreaming and saying no to perfection paralysis. For personal growth, that looks like planning out my week in advance and saying no to trying to do it all. For self-care and recreation, that looks like celebrating every tiny victory and saying no to late night scrolling. In our marriage, that looks like saying yes to thoughtful communication and saying no to assuming